another activity you can do with the ball is just a really simple story game. And all you're going to do is you can take a beach ball or any ball, and once again, this is a group cohesion activity, so you might want to do it after the group is met a few times or for a few hours. And basically, you're just going to toss the ball around, and when somebody gets the ball, it's their obligation to add a sentence to the story. One fun way that Catherine and I like to do this is to do a little variation of this we call Fortunately and Unfortunately. So I'm going to start a story with Fortunately, and then Catherine's going to have to, the next sentence is going to have to be start with Unfortunately. So fortunately, I leave in a week to go to the Keys.
Unfortunately, I am not going with her.
Fortunately, we should get to dive and see lots of fishies.
Unfortunately, with the big oil spill, that might not be possible.
Fortunately, we have plans if that happens. If we have a big oil spill, then we will volunteer to help clean it up.
Ooh, unfortunately, that's not what you planned, but actually that sounds like a good idea.
And fortunately, we also get to go to Smart Marriages and have a good time there with all those folks.
And unfortunately, Maureen gets to go and bring her family with her, but I don't.
So you get the idea on that. That's the fortunately, unfortunately. Another way is just to make up a silly story. Now this way works really well with teens and kids, and I would say one of the most important rules has to be just to go with the story even if it seems like it doesn't make sense, okay? So I'm kind of putting Catherine on the spot here because she doesn't even know how I'm going to start the story, but I'm going to start the story with, once upon a time, there was a squirrel that lived in a big castle.
And in this castle, there was a big black squirrel and a big brown squirrel, and they had to decide who was going to be in charge.
Well, the big brown squirrel knew where all the nuts were hidden, so he thought he should get to be in charge.
But little did he know, the big black squirrel had recruited all of his family members and had tons of little black squirrels to help find the nuts.
And so the brown squirrel and the black squirrel started to have a really big fight.
And they got really vicious until the black squirrel called in all of his troops and they surrounded the brown squirrel.
But the brown squirrel had a secret weapon. The brown squirrel knew how to make really loud noises that would drive the black squirrels crazy.
And he made all these noises, and they did indeed go insane, and they all fled the castle.
They fled the castle screaming, "Ah, the brown squirrel's after us, he thinks we're nuts." The idea would be you'd have lots of different participants and they would all add an interesting element to the story. And usually you get a lot of laughter, but sometimes you get some themes coming out there with people too.
Yeah, and it can be used like for kids. I just got done doing a bunch of deployment workshops, so I might want to start with maybe a deployment story. But just all kinds of activities with teens, you're going to get a whole different kind of flavor of stories, but that can be really fun. And you could even use it in your marriage workshops. It's just a good way to get things started.
So the first way we did the ball toss, we just kind of had some casual things on it just to get to know each other, like your favorite color or maybe your favorite song or your dream vacation. But after the group's been together for a little while, one of the fun things you can do is have another ball and put some more kind of intricate and deeper kind of questions on there. And sometimes these questions can even have the added bonus of really helping people think about what they've learned and add to it and kind of cement some of the skills that they've learned. So like one of the questions you could put on there would be something like one thing learned so far. That helps participants think about what you've already covered in class and it reinforces it. Another thing you could put on there could be something like one way my family is changing. And so these are a little bit more personal, so obviously you want to make sure that the group is feeling comfortable with each other, that they feel like they can share those things. So just like we did the first time, you just toss it around the room and wherever somebody's thumb lands, that's the question you're going to ask. So we'll do it just like we did before. Here you go, Catherine.
Okay, one way my family is changing. Well, one of the things I'm learning in this class is all about family dinner time, which I guess I just never realized was so important. And so we've gone from just everybody kind of sitting around watching the TV during dinner to actually sitting down at the dinner table and making time to make that happen.
Good. And One thing I've learned so far, so maybe one thing I've learned in this marriage education class so far is the importance of really being able to talk things out and solve our problems without escalating. Okay, so you would just have lots of questions like that, and once again you would toss it around the room so that everybody got a chance to answer. And it's just kind of a fun way to get people up on their feet and keep your class moving.
And what if somebody gets a question and they're not real comfortable or they don't want to answer it?
Well, then what we like to tell them to do is just to toss the ball up again and pick a different question. And it's okay if they're kind of picking the one they want, like say they really want to talk about their dream vacation, and so they toss it up again. Because the idea is just to get people talking and moving, rather than to really be something where they have to answer the exact question. It's not supposed to be that technical, it's just supposed to be fun.